I want to talk for a minute about your game, your career, and the fact that, to me, you were always very honest about the fact that as you came up out of Inglewood High School out here in LA,
Yeah.
you never considered yourself the most explosively athletic. You just had a knack and a gift for scoring the basketball. Go a little deeper into that. How did you see yourself as a junior and senior in high school?
Well, I was more of a late bloomer, Skip, because I didn't get
Yeah.
invited to all the national camps.
No.
Hearing about guys like Kevin Garnett, Allen Iverson, Felipe Lopez, and these guys. And believe it or not, I got invited to the national camp 1 week before the camp started
Ugh.
at the end of my junior year. And then I think from that point on, I made the leap. I grew about 3 or 4 inches between
Yeah.
sophomore and junior year. And that's when I really made the leap, and I made my name for myself on the national scene from junior to senior year that summer when I was rated one of the top 5 players in the Adidas camp that I went to.
Okay.
And I always had the knack of shooting the ball because I always started off like a point guard until I
Yep.
grew, and then I went from point guard to center back to the wing. So I played all the positions. That's why I had a well-rounded game.
Yeah.
But
And
that
yet you weren't an explosive leaper. I mean, you could jump, but you weren't. That wasn't your whole game, right?
no. No, not at all. Like, see, people rely, it's crazy. Like, the guys who are so athletic young, and then when they lose that athleticism, they don't know what to do. It's like their
Yep.
game changes. And I always had a game to where if I didn't have athleticism, I worked on my footwork, my jumper, angles, and things of that. I was a true student of the game, though, because I like a
You
lot of
were.
my idols weren't even that explosive. Like Magic Johnson, I watched growing up. I watched Steve Smith at Michigan State.
Yep.
Uh,
The good one. Yep.
yes. Jimmy Jackson, Ohio State. These
Yep.
is guys I kind of try to pattern my game after. Mitch Richmond.
Mm.
Them is
Yep.
guys I try to pattern
Another
my
one.
game about.
Yeah.
Bigger guards who, kind of a little stocky like me and just was strong and can knock down shots.
And yet, the one thing about, as crazy as this might sound to you, having worked with you, I'm always amazed by how tall you are, because you are a full 6'7", and there are
Yeah.
times I thought you were closer to 6'8". It just felt like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody always whenever I see people in person, they was like, "Dang, I thought you were shorter than that," or I don't know. They was like,
Yeah.
because everybody you look at the NBA games, everybody's the same size on the court. You really don't get a feel of how big
You
somebody
can
is
on
until you see
television.
them.
No.
No,
No.
not until
No.
because everybody's the same size. And so I always shock people when I'm around them. They be like, "Man, I didn't know you were that big and tall."
So when you were drafted by Boston, you went a little
Mhm.
later than you thought, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
which drove you. It
Oh
was your
man,
chip on shoulder, right?
drove me nuts, Skip. You don't even know how I was sitting in that green room. Like one of the last ones called. I was projected to go number 2. I thought it was done deal. Number 2 to Vancouver. Then I only worked out for the top 5 teams. So
Mm.
after it got past the 5th, like Golden State was 5 or Toronto, I was just like, where am I going? Like, I had no clue. I'm looking at my mom. I'm looking at my agent. It was so stressful in that green room. And I remember my interview when I got picked 10 and I had no clue about, Boston or Rick Pitino and them.
Yep.
I said, these other 9 teams are going to regret not picking me. I remember saying that at the draft.
Yep.
Because I knew what kind of drive I had, so I could speak it, but I knew I was going to work for that too.
It almost felt to me like the Celtics took you by default, like they hadn't really thought about taking you, but once you fell all the way to 10, it's
Yeah.
like, well, wait a second. We had Paul, I don't know where they had you on their board, 2, 3, 4, where somewhere
Yeah.
in there. And they're like, well, we didn't really do a lot of homework, but how can we not take Paul Pierce at 10, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was one of the top 5 college players. I was up for National Player of the Year. Everybody had me in the top 5, and when I kind of slipped there, because I think when they were going to take Dirk Nowitzki if he was on the board, but he went 9.
Yep.
And so I kind of like you said, I fell into their lap. Things happen for a reason. I'm glad I did. Because think about it. If I was thinking now, if I was picked by Vancouver, which is the Memphis Grizzlies now,
Yep.
probably be a whole different career trajectory. Who knows?
You walked in the door in Boston, to me, at the perfect time. right on time, and you stepped on an NBA floor, and I could just see watching you as a rookie, your body language said, I belong. Like
Yeah.
there was no doubt from dribble number one that you thought you were the equal of anybody out on the floor as a rookie. Would you say that's how
Yeah.
you felt? Yeah,
Absolutely. I felt like a young guy playing against old men because I felt like
exactly.
my game was already mature. I felt like my game was built for the NBA. You know, I
It
went to
was.
so I was at Inglewood High School to where I was learning the game, but then Roy Williams really taught me the game at Kansas. You
Yeah.
know, as good as I thought I was coming out of high school, he really taught me the game. So, like, when I stepped on that NBA floor, I was ready to go. I was ready to
Mm.
go. You know, I
Yeah.
was just like, I knew how to play with other good players. And that's some things that some other players don't know how to do in the NBA. You got to realize everybody was really good before they got to the NBA. And you have to
Mm.
learn to play with other players. And that's what I learned at Kansas, how to play with other good players.
That's
And
good.
so
Yeah.
and so it really helped me once I made the leap.
So Shaquille O'Neal nicknamed you the Truth because you were. And my friend Bob Ryan, I don't know how well you knew Bob, but he's
Yeah, I know
obviously
Bob.
covering
Yeah.
the Celtics,
Yes.
and he used to rave to me about your game, saying it was underappreciated. And he was obviously the biggest Bird fan, as was
Yeah.
everybody else in Boston. And you were in the ballpark right away where you could do some of those things. And again, Larry Bird was ground bound. He wasn't a leaper, obviously, or
Right.
the most athletic guy. And you were doing some of the things that Bird did with your mind as much as your body. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually studied Larry too, growing up. You know, just
Huh.
the way he used his pump fakes. I was a really big pump fake guy.
You were.
Uh, I could shoot it from long range. I respected his IQ. We have a lot of little similarities as far as like, you know, playing below the rim, but can get over the rim if we needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the players like him, Magic Johnson, those guys got me into basketball. You know, it was like I liked, you know, Mike was Mike, but I wasn't going to ever jump like Mike.
No.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I was just like,
Yeah.
you know, I could steal something from Magic and Bird, IQ, they smart, you know, they play below the rim and you know, and they really, those two really inspired my game and inspired me because growing up here in Los Angeles in the Inglewood area, watching Magic all these
Yeah.
years, and of course the rivalry with him and Larry Bird was really what drove me into the game of hoops.
And by the way, we have come full circle from the Michaels and the Kobes and the Iversons, and now we have a Luka and a Joker
I
who are
know,
playing
right?
more that kind of basketball, right? That below the
And
rim basketball.
dominating and
Yeah, and
dominating the
dominant.
game.
Yeah,
Isn't
maybe
that crazy?
it's crazy because they're doing it as much with their mind as their bodies. I'm pretty sure it's about
Yeah.
50-50 mind body, right, with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they just display the highest IQ in basketball, those two. I mean, the way they can just do everything. I mean, everything sets up when you can pass and shoot. So when you can pass and shoot, it sets up so many other parts of your game. You know,
Yep.
I know it sets up drives. It sets up. I mean, they're so far ahead. But people would forget these guys have been pros since you know
Yeah,
teenage years too.
they
That's the
have.
one thing we don't take into account when a lot of the European players come over. They're pros from the day they pick up the basketball, like 13,
Absolutely.
playing against men. And that's why I think that we're behind. We're so far behind as American players, and you can just
Agreed.
see it. Every year, there's more European coming in from wherever, France, wherever, and there's so much more advanced than us coming out.
Yeah.